السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, welcome to our weekly program, Got Questions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Mufti Saab, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, doing well. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Just feeling, subhanAllah, just feels like I caught a cold or something. Just so cold today, subhanAllah. How you been? How's everything been?
Alham- Alhamdulillah, doing well.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Very good to hear from you. Alhamdulillah. Just one second. I'm trying to set this up. Good. Alhamdulillah. What's up? I think some of the questions that we had pending from last time that inshallah maybe we can take some of them. So I know this question would require us a lot more details or a detailed subject itself, but a lot of time where people ask the questions about following a specific madhab or a specific school of thought, and more than ever now, where people feel that we have the access to information, we have access to so-called knowledge and people online. um, where do we draw that line? And from the life of the great companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what sort of guidance do we have from them so that we can really see and assess from within ourselves that the Sahaba also, follow a particular path, even though there were oceans and giants to themselves with regards to knowledge. So people at this moment, when it comes to following a specific school of thought, where do we stand and how should we be guided? Assalamu alaikum Mufti Abdullah Sahab, how are you?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, good to see you, man. I was just sharing this question with Mufti Saab with regards to, and of course, everyone can share some thoughts. And I asked Mufti Saab that it does require an entire detailed subject to itself, where we talk about the importance of the Aimma Arba, and then the Madahib and the importance of it. But in a nutshell, where do we draw the line where people begin to say that, we have access to information, we have access to knowledge, we have access to things, and we can make our own decisions? Uh, as Muslims, as believers, how do we take this approach? Mufti Saab?
Surah Ar-Rahman Rahim. Firstly, it's important to understand that from the time of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there existed ikhtilaf, differences of opinion amongst the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and then it continued on. It's something that's you're not going to be able to unite the ummah on one thing. And there's no point of that either. There are many benefits and blessings in this difference that we have. This is not the scope for that, but inshallah, at a different setting, we can discuss that. But first thing to understand is that these ikhtilaf existed from the very beginning. And then because of those ikhtilaf, we had imam and fuqaha that came and formulated and organized their madhab. So, for example, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, he found that there was this hadith, and that hadith in one particular issue. So the Aimma had different principles and different guidelines for which they gave preference to one hadith over the other hadith. It's not possible to act upon all the hadith at once. Right? Some of them, for instance, in regards to where you should place your hands when you're performing salah. Should you place it below your chest, on your navel, below your navel? Don't fold your hands. These are all things that have been narrated from Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And it's impossible for you to act upon each one of them at the same time. And if you're going to say, hey, let's look at the most authentic, then all of these could be proven to be authentic based on principles that the Imam adopted in formulating their madhahib. So when we understand that these differences are there, now it leads to the next question, which is which one do we give preference to? Now, this is exactly what the A'imma did. For us to come 1400 years later and now try to reinvent the wheel would be stupidity. The A'imma, they weren't only four, there were many more, but these four, their schools were preserved, and 1200 years of scholarship has preserved it down and brought it down to us. When we say that we're following the madhab of Imam Shafi'i, or Imam Abu Hanifa, or Imam so-and-so, it doesn't mean that we're following their opinion or that we're following their concept of deen, but rather it is their understanding of the Quran and the Ahadith And this is something that it's not, when we say that we're following the Shafi'i school or the Hanafi school, it's not just a one-man show. It's an entire school. For instance, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah had an entire group of individuals, fuqaha, qurra, nahwi, linguists, mufassirin, that would be with Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and then they would decide on a matter after consulting. And then after that, in every generation, there were books and books written and documented simply to preserve and formulate and expand on these principles that were laid down by these fuqaha, rahimahumullah ta'ala. So today, when we say that we're following Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, it doesn't mean that we're following his opinion, but it means we're following his understanding of the Quran and the Ahadith. And if I was to say, hey, let me go back and do that myself, what credentials do I have that gives me the ability to do that, right? What knowledge do I have that gives me the ability to go and do that ijtihad that they did? We find commonly today people saying, hey, let's go back and follow the Quran and the Sunnah. But then when we look at these claims that sound very nice, what we tend to see is, hey, let's not follow the Aimah that came before, but instead let's follow some individuals that just passed away recently, 1999, 2000, and so forth, and around that time. So why should I follow the madhab of someone that just passed away after I was born, when I could follow someone who was a tabi'i or a tabi'u tabi'i? And when we say that let's follow the Quran and the Sunnah, what we're essentially saying is Imam Abu Hanifa didn't follow the Quran and the Sunnah. Imam Shafi didn't follow the Quran and the Sunnah. I understand the Quran and the Sunnah better, and I'm going to do that. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah did exactly what these people are trying to claim now. Let's follow the Quran and the Sunnah. So they've placed down things for us to follow, and we're not blindly following. Every mas'ala, every issue that's there is established through adillah. There are dalils that are there for every single issue that's there. Yes, some adillah may be correct according to one school, but not correct according to the other school. But the basis of the difference is the principles that are there. The discussion could go on for longer, but I don't think that's the scope or the purpose of this program tonight.
There's no. Oh, that's very, very helpful, Mufti Sahib. That's very, very helpful. Mufti Abdullah Sahib, you're just taking that all in, absorbing it. You're mute.
Yeah, so I said when Mufti Muaz is talking, you just gotta be quiet and listen. That's it. That's how it is.
That's it. Just that's the final call, brother. That's just bil khair, brother. Right after that.
Wallahu alam bis-sawab. That's it.
That's it. Al jawab sahih would right after that, brother. Alhamdulillah. We'll accept. Anything you would like to say, Mufti Abdullah Sahib?
I want to just give maybe one example from a real world situation. For example, this is a very, very easy example to understand. We have so much medical information online. It's available online. Anything that you can think of is available online. You type in your symptoms on Google, it's going to tell you like a list of things that you have, and almost all the time you have cancer. WebMD is giving everyone cancer for some reason. It's just giving everyone cancer and death. So, but there's I mean, anything medical that you can think of, it's probably online. You can find it somewhere. So when it comes to the medical field, do we also say, hey, everything's available online? Why don't I just go online and search up my own medical issues and let me just do my own surgery and let me just do everything myself? It doesn't really work like that. You have doctors there that have studied. I'm just giving a very, very easy example to understand. Usually people understand these kinds of things. So in that kind of situation, we say that no, there's people that have already studied this in depth. They know what my situation could be. It's instead of going through what all of these situations could be, they're going to narrow it down, they're going to pinpoint it, then they're going to treat it, they're going to give me an answer for that. So likewise, same thing when it comes to, or similar in a way when it comes to following a scholar or following a particular madhab.
I think my signals are. this is one of my साथीज from Pakistan. अस्सलाम वालेकुम मुफ्ती फरहान खादिम मुगल साहब, आज किस मौजू पर बात हो रही है? अगर इसकी उर्दू स्लाइड चलाएं और उर्दू बोलने वाले भी मुस्तफीद होंगे। बंदा हबीब रहमान फलान, आपका हम क्लास दौरा और तखस्सुस का साल का। That's my this is
माशाल्लाह
my साथी।
माशाल्लाह।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, उम्मीद है खैरियत से होंगे। मुफ्ती साहब सिर्फ आज जो इस वक़्त वो अंग्रेज़ी के अंदर बात इस वक़्त चल रही थी, वो किसी साथी ने ये सवाल ये किया था कि अगर कोई शख़्स ये कहे कि आजकल हमारे पास कुरान और हदीस और कंप्यूटर के एतबार से, डिजिटल मीडिया के एतबार से बहुत सी ज़राए मौजूद हैं कि जिसकी वजह से हम लोग खुद तहकीक कर सकते हैं कि कौन-सी चीज़ ठीक है, कौन-सी चीज़ गलत है। तो क्या हम लोग अपने एतबार से किसी भी मज़हब के ऊपर अमल कर सकते हैं, नहीं अमल कर सकते? और फिर ये कि क्या ज़रूरी है कि जो हनफ़ियत है या शाफ़ी है, मालिकी, हम हनाबिला है, क्या किसी एक मख़सूस को जो है ना पूरा अमल करना लाज़िम है किसी के ऊपर? और सहाबा रज़ियल्लाहु अन्हुम अजमईन की ज़िंदगी से क्या ये बात साबित है या नहीं? तो इसके बारे में थोड़ी बहुत बात चल रही थी। लेकिन आपने सही फरमाया मुफ्ती साहब, कोई ऐसा प्रोग्राम आप हज़रात के साथ भी मिलकर उर्दू में भी करना चाहिए कि उर्दू के अहबाब या बाकी ममालिक के अंदर जो लोग हैं वो भी इंशाल्लाह मुस्तफ़ीद हो सकें। लेकिन क्योंकि अक्सर लोग यहाँ पर अमेरिका में अंग्रेज़ी बोलते हैं, तो इसलिए कोशिश ये होती है कि कम से कम हफ़्ते में आधा घंटा इस प्रोग्राम को अंग्रेज़ी में किया जाए कि ये लोग यहाँ पर जिनके पास बराह रास्त कोई ज़राए नहीं है उलमा से, तो उनको भी फ़ायदा हो सके इंशाल्लाह। Sorry guys for that, but it's so good to see your classmate, man. SubhanAllah, Mufti Abdi Habib Rahman, man. I remember him so close now. Mufti Sahib, another question that came, the second question that was present was that a person had mentioned that they had taken a loan from another individual on a certain period of time. For example, they mentioned 1 year. Um, and there is no compulsion of returning earlier or later. They said that you can return the money in 1 year. Uh, this is person A taking person money from person B. So person B is a lender. Person A now says that they have the money to return to person B, but the year has not passed. But they do feel like going for Umrah at this moment because of the break now in the times, and they have access of going right now. Would it be better for them to return the money or take the opportunity and perform the Umrah, even though they have approximately about 6 months time till returning the money, which they have promised that they will return definitely before the year? And the one who lent the money had said that you can return to me in any time between 1 year, and they haven't even asked for it because there's still time remaining. So, what would be the best amal for person A? Can they perform the umrah? Would there be any sin upon that individual, or would it be better to return the money and then wait for a better time or another time to perform umrah?
In this situation, it would be up to their own preference. Since they do have time to return the money, it would be up to their own preference. There is no sin either way they go, so they can either perform umrah or they can return back the money. It's up to them. I mean, you can think of it from both ways. Do you want to go to umrah debt free, completely worry free, and just do your umrah like that, or do you want to take advantage of the next 6 months that you have, do your umrah and then pay it back later on? I mean, it's you can look at it both ways. Any way is fine.
Jazakumullahu khair. So, would there be any preferences? Meaning, was there be any ola and stuff like that, or
Personally, I don't think so.
okay?
Mufti Moaz?
No, as long as he knows he'll be able to pay it back on time, he's good to go.
Yeah.
Jazakumullah khair. Jazakallah khair. And another person had also asked
Make
this question.
sorry, I'm just gonna
No,
add
no,
over
no, no,
here. Make istikhara in this kind of situation for them, because both situations are permissible. Both situations are something that you can do. There is no harm in either situation. So in this kind of situation, you make istikhara and see what comes into your heart. Whichever way that you go, Allah will put barakah and khair in that specific action, inshallah.
Barakallah. That's good. मुफ्ती साहब राइट्स, अल्लाह ताला आपको बमा और फ़क़ा की तरक्की की तरफ ले जाए और इस्तिक़ामत व इख़लास नसीब फरमाए। आमीन या रब्बल
Ameen.
आलमीन।
Ameen.
आमीन या and another person had asked, and I know this is not a fiqh related question, but a person just asked, and he said, Sawa, I hope you're doing well. How many muftis are there in the US? I think there are two in Long Island, including
No,
yourself.
no, no. There's only one Grand Mufti. That's it.
No, they're not asking about the grand. They're just all asking about the non-grand.
A non-Grand, there's a lot.
And then he asked, "Is it 100 or 1,000?" I asked. I told him, unfortunately, I don't know. I was thinking I was going to see you guys and see if there's an estimate on how many uh,
I would
mufti.
say probably a few hundred.
A few hundred.
Yeah, maybe.
In the
I don't
past
know.
recent years, mashallah, I think there has been a huge increase with the barakah of our students traveling to different countries, South Africa and England, and coming back now. Mufti Sahib, do you know that how many percent of our students from the institutions in South Africa, Azad will, or the other Zakaria, they end up doing iftar as well?
Mm, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay. So Alhamdulillah, I think in the previous few years we have had a good amount of mashallah ulama come back and study, but again, and not exactly knowing the numbers.
Why
Uh,
does he want to? Does the person want to do a dawat for all of them? You
that's
know,
a
do a dawat for the ones that you know.
you and food.
That's it. They want to do a soccer finale dawat
Yeah,
or make a party or something.
maybe. Okay. What else? What else? Do you guys have any questions that comes to Mufti Abdullah? Have anything on your side to ask?
Um, nothing, nothing that I can think of like that. They're all like most of them are like personal questions.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Question
Yeah.
came. Brother Moin asks a question, says, Assalamu alaikum. Recently, someone raised a question about the beer battered fish on the grill. And the discussion started whether alcohol burns evaporate when it's grilled. What's the ruling on it? Hypothetically, if 100% of the alcohol is burnt.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Even if 100% of the alcohol is burnt away or evaporated, then too the product will still remain haram. Because the purpose of the alcohol coming in is to add flavor. So even though it's evaporated, the flavor still remains in that. And alcohol is something which is najis. So the najasa, the impurity had infiltrated into the food. It remains impure and it's haram to consume such a thing.
On the other hand, there are some packages that you can get. I have one over here. I even asked someone that knows about halal and haram from Hafsa. There's some packages that you can get. It says battered fish or something, and the ingredients were fine. There's no beer in there. There's no alcohol in there. All it is just a mix. That's all it is. It's like a flavored corn flour. That's what it is, and it gives a good flavor to the fish. I think I have it. I can go see.
We can always come over. Just don't just show us. We can always come over.
You and food.
Yes, we love it. We love the food. We love good food. So I think two different perspectives were not to do two different perspectives, two different questions. So with regards to Brother Moin's question is that if there is alcohol, oh sorry, beer batter present, irrespective of it being evaporated or grilled or whatever it is, it will still not be acceptable, right, Mufti Wasab?
Correct.
And then Mufti Abdullah Sahib, you said there is halal alternatives. Like you gave the
Correct.
pro version. What's that? There's the halal scan halal pro, which gives you
I
alternative
gave
versions.
I gave the advanced version of the question.
No, they give the alternatives of use this and that would be okay or something like that. Mufti Muassab, with regards to the alcohol present in food, and Mufti Abdullah Sahib yourself as well. Like for example, vanilla extract that's used a lot. And a lot of time that's used in baking, and it begins with I think 40% of it, and then over time in baking itself, when it completely is done, would it hold the same ruling because it's for the flavor and nothing remains?
Can you repeat the question?
So vanilla extract that's used in baking products, it starts off with a large amount of alcohol inside. the vanilla extract itself, 40%, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Usually pure vanilla extract has alcohol in it.
yeah, I know that some of the places like Trader Joe's and others have like non-alcoholic vanilla extract present as well. So they have non-alcoholic one too. But
Synthetic.
synthetic, yes, synthetic milk. Jazakallah. So, but with regards to the ones that have alcohol, would there be a different ruling to it, or
No, it should be avoided. It should be avoided completely.
it
Instead,
should be
opt for the synthetic version.
use the synthetic version? And what about like vanilla ice creams, right? Vanilla ice creams have portions of like when it starts with that. Do we have to call up the companies and find out and check?
Definitely. Many of them actually do use synthetic ones, so you can opt for those. But those that contain non-synthetic vanilla extract that contains alcohol, according to the majority, that would not be permissible.
Or what's have any alternative for ice creams? Abdullah?
Yeah. Water.
Did you say water?
Yeah.
Okay, a
Like
related question.
treadmill.
What is the opinion of non-alcoholic beer? Is it halal? I think we spoke about this in very early programs where there was like a whole discussion on people making it halal and
If it contains no alcohol whatsoever, uh,
it still
completely
has
zero.
portions of it. I think, or I don't know, there was a whole like
Yeah, so that's why I'm
So
saying if it contains
there's
absolutely 0% alcohol, no traces, no alcohol, uh, then there's no problem with it as long
I,
as
I
it's not it's not drunk in.
I think there's a
Uh,
few things here.
huh?
I think there's a few
okay,
things.
okay,
Yeah,
go
One
yeah,
ahead.
is
I'm gonna
yeah,
let
yeah,
you
yeah.
do it.
one is something that's like your famous Laziza and those drinks that
Malt
don't necessarily
drinks.
have any alcohol to start with at all. And then you have certain things which, like Heineken and all these companies, they make 0% zero alcohol or beer. So the research shows that these things actually contain a small percentage of alcohol, but they don't have to report it because of how minute it is. But
Mm,
even in the absence of that, the fuqaha still mentioned that it would be impermissible to drink these things simply because of uh, the emulation that's found here with the degenerate and the immoral ones. What's the purpose of having these things? People want to assimilate and they want to look like they are drinking. They want to feel like they're clubbing as well. So you're trying to imitate those who are engaging in haram. So that's what would be haram according to the fuqaha. Recently, there was some stuff that came out called I think it was halal halal cellar wine or something like that, where they take actual alcohol or wine and then they remove the intoxicating nature from that, the intoxicating substance, and then they call it halal.
whoa.
So this wouldn't become halal at all. Simply removing the intoxicating nature wouldn't make it tahir. Alcohol is something which is najis, and it would remain najis unless a complete transformation happens and it's no longer alcohol. But in this case, it's still the same thing. We're just removing the intoxicating factors or substances. That would still remain haram. And if that's one aspect, and the second aspect again is the issue of tashabbuh or imitation of the immoral and degenerate ones, that's the main purpose. You don't see anyone else drinking this. This is a halal version for Muslims who want to go clubbing. So the whole purpose behind it is wrong. It's if you even look at the names of some of these so-called halal drinks, which are haram in reality, you would be surprised that this is the name of so-called drinks. It's terrible stuff.
Oh man. Abdullah, you were gonna say something?
I was gonna say there's some on some of the drinks that say zero alcohol. If you a lot of times if you read the back label or if you read the label, it says contains what is it? It contains 0.5% alcohol, meaning
Oh,
half of 1%. So I think the FDA requires that anything above that half of 1%, meaning 0.5% or 1%, has to be labeled as contains alcohol. But anything under there's some FDA regulations over here. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but 0% alcohol is usually not 0% alcohol. If you a lot of times on the back it says contains 0.5% alcohol.
uh-huh. Subhanallah. May Allah protect us all.
Ameen.
All right, let's take this last question. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Today, my son came home from school and asked me if Santa Claus is real. I told him, no, we don't believe in Santa Claus. He continued to tell me one of his teachers told him it is, and it's the spirit of Christmas. What more should I say to him? He's
This
6.
is this is crazy.
It is, right?
No, not the question itself is because something just happened with one of my daughters like 2 days ago. This
Allah.
exact same question, but it was so funny. Like the way it happened, it was hilarious. So we're coming back from somewhere, and usually what happens is we live in Long Island, so they have like all these parades with these ambulances, these fire trucks, and they go around before
Just
Christmas.
stuck behind it right now.
Huh?
I was just stuck behind one right now.
Yeah, so that's what they do, right? And then they have Santa Claus over there on it, and he's waving around.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we just had that discussion like a few hours before. Uh, she was saying that, hey, we're Santa Claus, and then we're like, I told my kids, Santa Claus is not real. He's fake. It's just, I mean, it's not really a thing and stuff like that. And then she's like, okay. Then she tells her brother, Santa Claus is not real and stuff. And as we're coming, we're stuck behind that same parade. And then she's like, oh, Santa Claus? She's like, Papa, I told you it's real. So that's funny, man.
Oh man. So how did that conversation? I know it might have been private, but what was the next reaction, Mufti Saab? Like, how
Oh,
did?
then I told her that it's just a random person. They have different people dress up as Santa Claus. I told her I can become Santa Claus too if I just have to just dress up. So I told her the idea of Santa Claus. I'm not sure if she understood, but I told her like this whole thing that Santa Claus comes on reindeers and he goes in the sky and all that stuff. That's fake. They just dress someone up as Santa Claus and the parents just give the gifts. I just spilled the beans to everyone over there.
No, but yeah, I think it's important to lay the proper foundations when it comes to aqaid and belief of our kids, because I think these are the things that really draw a very clear line between our children learning the things that are correct and incorrect.
Yeah,
SubhanAllah.
it
So,
that Santa Claus is something that does affect our aqidah.
well, I think as parents, it's important to really have that conversation with the children. And I think not having that conversation or thinking that they're too young or they're immature, these kids are having deeper conversations than what we can imagine ever in their own schools. Their kids in middle school or even earlier in elementary school, which are talking about gender choices, may Allah forgive, already as children, and then we feel that we can talk about these basic aqidah things with our children. So I think really as parents, they need to step up their game and lay the foundations now, because we don't want this to come and harm us later. It may be out of the norm. It may not be something that many others are doing, but if we really want to protect the iman and the aqidah, the belief of our children, I think these very important conversations have to take place. They have to. Uh,
Legal. Okay, let's speak about a question over here. Legally, is it allowed for public schools to indoctrinate the kids with this sort of religious belief in Santa Claus? Legally, maybe there's some lawyers listening, but I
uh,
thought I thought public schools cannot indoctrinate any religion.
I was actually, yeah. So I was seeing there was a news article that came in from two kids who went to a charter school, and they were praying. They were praying, and one of the female teachers came in and they stepped over one of the child's hands, and then of course at the end she was fired and she was let go from that
I saw
school.
that. I saw
And
that.
at the end, they announced that the school directly cannot enforce, or the teacher or the employee of a school cannot lead a prayer. But if a student is leading a prayer, then it is allowed to have prayers in school, and there will not be a difference or a clash between state and church if a child themselves is practicing their religion. So it cannot be indoctrinated or forced by the teachers, but if it's done by a student themselves, it will be acceptable. So it's a good question. I don't know what Brother Danny mentioned. He said
I think
the separation of religion and church is exactly that, but reality is very different.
yeah. So I think we as community leaders should address this and speak with school boards and speak with the principals. Usually, principals are the ones that handle this. I know it's a very big thing. You just tell them, hey, I don't want my kid to learn about Christmas, and I don't want you teaching it to anyone else. They're gonna be like, what?
Yeah. No, but there has to be honest conversations because, I was just reading the list of children. My youngest one is in public school, and the other one's in Mashallah in Hibs and Islamic school. But my youngest one is, and I was reading the list of kids, and I saw majority of the kids like Mashallah doing extremely well. There was like an entire news article with kids who did phenomenal. And most of these kids had Muslim names. They're all Muslim kids. And there are a lot of kids now. I know in New York City, Mufti Muassam, I think 10% of all students are Muslim, right? I think every 10th child in a public school system in New York City is actually a Muslim. So these are basic fundamental Aqidah stuff that really has to be discussed. I know when it comes to other occasions, we opt out of our children, but I know this is a big thing for many
Yeah, this
the
isn't
holiday spirit,
something
as
that.
Brother Farhad also mentioned. That go ahead,
Sorry,
please.
sorry. I think one
No,
of
no,
our
go ahead, go ahead.
internets is slow. I got fiber, bro. That's
No,
not
I
me.
don't have. I'm trying to use the internet from. Uh, anyway, go ahead, please go ahead.
How much are you getting paid?
I need you over, bro. I need you over to fix this stuff for me.
Mufti
Um,
Abdullah, how much are you getting paid for advertising?
for advertising, I'm getting paid quite a bit. No, actually, if it's an ad, you have to legally say it's an ad. So this is not an ad. Uh, what was I gonna say, man? Oh, I was gonna say that in this kind of situation where they teach the children about Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, all of these things. There's some things which are religious. There's Thanksgiving, and then there's Christmas, and then there's Easter, and then there's other things which are not really religious. There's Martin Luther King Day, and Labor Day, Veterans Day. These kinds of things. Those are federal holidays. They don't have any religious aspect to them. Now, see, there's two ways that this can go. And the first way is that we say that, or we as community leaders, we come together, we say we don't want any sort of religious talk or any sort of indoctrination whatsoever. Not Islam, not Christianity, nothing. Take everything out. All we want you to do is just education. That's it. The other way it could go is that, okay, if you're going to teach this, then we also want you to teach about Ramadan. We want you to do 2 3 weeks 4 weeks of Ramadan, because that's the whole month. We want you to do about both the Eids of the entire year. So these are the two ways that it can go.
Understood. It's a deeper conversation, and we should definitely involve some of the local community people who have been instrumental in some of the heat stuff, to see what their input is, and coming united. All right, let's take this as the last question. Well, Danny asks and says, "Is alcohol completely disallowed? I thought only intoxication was prohibited, because there is alcohol in present in many things: ripe banana, hot sauce, nuts, vanilla."
Bro, which non has alcohol? Which non is getting me high?
So alcohol, whether it intoxicates or not, is impermissible. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, regards to kathiruhu wa qaliluhu. Whether you have abundance of it, a lot of it, or a small drop of it, it's impermissible. Yes, there is a legal nuance or difference of opinion that's a minority position, but in most cases that wouldn't even apply here. Um, Anything that contains any form of alcohol would be impermissible, unless it's synthetic or something like that, which isn't really alcohol. That's different.
So when we talk about ripe bananas, is he talking about the chemical component of something that makes a banana? It's the yeast in naan, he says. It's the yeast in naan. Produces alcohol when when it breaks down the flour. So I think it's like a breakdown of a chemical reaction that may have portions of alcohol or same chemical. I'm not sure what that is.
So usually when we say alcohol and in terms of Sharia, we refer to alcohol that's made from a few things. That's grapes, dates, barley, wheat, flour, these kinds of things. And it's where the product is specifically turned into alcohol. It's not that a component within cooking, like for example, like he's saying, the yeast in the naan produces a chemical compound that is known as alcohol. That kind of situation, that's not, you're not really producing alcohol from yeast to consume as alcohol. I mean, there's a whole, I think there's a whole discussion over here, but that's what I understand from it.
True, true. Because I think when we talk about alcohol, like I think the definition of alcohol has to be very clear as well. Well, does have any thought comes to you?
No.
Yeah. I think we should just maybe we could take it next week with a little bit more details, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think it's about 9:40, 9:45 now. So Jazakallah khair, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for joining us and being involved and asking questions about our deen. He said understood, Jazakallah. So that's good. Alhamdulillah. Allah reward you, bless you, and Jazakallah khair and all for joining us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to live according to the Quran and the Sunnah. Inshallah, we'll see you next week. Please keep us in the entire Ummah dua. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Right.